I've got your energy story for the third week of January 2026. Well, this past week, the resources of tomorrow have been claiming my attention. I wish I could say offshore wind was in the mix, but the Trump administration won't quite stop kicking that dog. Although just this morning, yet another federal judge lifted a stop work order on the $5 billion New England project owned by Ørsted, while Dominion announced it would ask a federal judge to do the same thing for its $11 billion project off Virginia. Today, though, let's look briefly at the prospects for both fusion and fission generating technologies. Let's start with fusion. In mid-December, fusion company TAE announced it was merging with the Trump Media Group, of all things, in an all-stock transaction valued at more than $6 billion. The press release claimed that, quote, by 2026, the combined company plans to site and begin construction on the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant at 50 megawatts. Unquote. Additional fusion power plants are planned and expected to be 300 to 500 megawatts. On its website, TAE touts the fact that it has achieved proof of science with the ability to sustain plasma confinement at temperatures exceeding 70 million degrees centigrade, and it hails other technological breakthroughs that may help it create a more cost-effective approach and shorten the roadmap to commerciality. It also says that TAE is on track to deliver hydrogen boron fusion to the grid in the early 2030s. On January 6th, the company said it has begun the site selection process for a 20-plus acre site with proximity to a primary distribution grid and a metropolitan hub. Well, maybe. And TAE's research reactor reportedly delivered beyond expectations. But from the outside looking in, if I had to bet who'd get to fusion first, I'd have to turn my sights to Commonwealth Fusion. They've got more critical pieces of the puzzle apparently assembled. Commonwealth just announced the manufacture of the first magnet needed to create the magnetic bottle that holds the fusion reaction, in their case at temps of 180 million degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the core of the sun, even at night. It also has critically developed the manufacturing capability to make those magnets. Commonwealth is currently building a demonstration plant in Massachusetts. It also just announced it is enlisting AI chip maker NVIDIA and industrial powerhouse Siemens to develop digital representations of its machines, compilations of data and simulations that can help accelerate the design and make improvements along the way. And finally, the all-important piece is the off-taker. Google committed last June to purchase 200 megawatts of power from the first fusion plant in Chesterfield County, Virginia. Importantly, Google has been an investor in Commonwealth Fusion since 2021 and announced last June that it's increasing its stake by an undisclosed amount, giving Google the option to purchase more power from additional plants. And on the heels of that, Commonwealth announced an additional deal with Italian energy company Eni in a deal worth north of $1 billion. So fusion may just be a very real thing sometime in the visible future. Then, turning to fission, there's the constant drumbeat of news coming from the modular nuclear sector. This week, Meta announced deals with two of the so-called Generation 4 mini-nuclear companies, Oklo and TerraPower. Gen 4 nuclear plants aren't your typical 700 to 1,000 megawatt large nukes. Instead, they're designed to be smaller, more fuel efficient, fail-safe in the event of a plant failure or something such as a tsunami or earthquake, with fuel from which it is more difficult to make nuclear weapons. Numerous Gen 4 companies are active these days, and the optimism surrounding them is quite high. Take publicly traded Oklo. Its stock rose from a share price of $23 on January 13th of 2025 to $102 today, and it kissed $175 on the way. Meta's recently announced deal contemplates a plant in Chicago, the first of many additional projects up to 1,200 megawatts worth, with the first coming online as early as 2030. Last year, Oklo increased the size of its modular unit from 50 to 75 megawatts, and it now has a site use permit for an initial reactor and was also awarded fuel for its first machine from Idaho National Laboratories. Oklo has also submitted a license application for both construction and operation of its first plant, and it broke ground for that installation in September. Meta's second deal with Bill Gates-backed TerraPower hasn't yet specified a site, but the agreement includes up to 8 of TerraPower's reactors, joined with energy storage systems for load following capability. Two of those may be commissioned as early as 2032, with the enterprise eventually scaling to be as large as 2,600 megawatts of nuclear capacity paired with 1,200 megawatts of storage. If a nuclear renaissance is to occur, it will be the insatiable energy appetites of the hyperscaler data centers that likely catalyzes it. Last August, Google, Kairos, and the Tennessee Valley Authority announced a power purchase agreement between Kairos Power and TVA for up to 50 megawatts that would support Google data centers in Tennessee and Alabama. That made TVA the first U.S. utility to ink a PPA with a Gen 4 reactor. Kairos and Google have an agreement for 500 megawatts of nuclear capacity by 2035. The first units are scheduled for operation by 2030. Meanwhile, Amazon and X-Energy move ahead as well. Also last August, they announced a relationship with Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power and Doosan Enerbility to accelerate the deployment of X-Energy's reactors in the U.S. with a target of 5,000 megawatts across the country by 2039. In December, X-Energy also inked a binding reservation agreement for the manufacture of its main power system steel components for 16 of these modular reactors at 80 megawatts each. Amazon was an anchor investor in X-Energy's 2024 $500 million funding round. The data company has also selected first sites, having signed an agreement with Energy Northwest. There are other small nuclear companies besides the ones I mentioned, such as NuScale and Holtec, but they all face similar challenges. First, they have to get design approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Then they have to build and trial their first reactors, even as they start construction of the plants that will eventually build the machines. To get there, they need to fill their order books, because selling one or two of these is not going to get one to the scale needed to drive costs down, especially in today's world where anything related to power is soaring in price. Scale in manufacturing can help reverse that price trend because you can spread capital costs across more units. And a learning curve can kick in if you get volumes high enough, but let's not kid ourselves about that. This isn't like solar panels or battery cells where one creates a virtuous circle during the manufacture of millions or billions of cells or panels. In those instances, one had massive improvements in the underlying technology, sunlight conversion efficiencies for solar, life cycle gains for batteries, combined with supply chain efficiencies all the way up the ladder, added to manufacturing improvements. The numbers we're talking about here for modular nukes, they won't get you there. Then there's a new workforce that needs to be developed and NIMBY issues to be overcome. If solar and wind face local pushback, one shouldn't expect anything different with small nuclear plants in the backyard. Could there be a moonshot moment? Perhaps, but only if a number of companies perish as well on the road. The industry won't achieve scale with all of them operating. And the cost issue ultimately will be paramount. Here, NuScale serves as a cautionary example. It came out of the box with an agreement years ago to serve the Utah Association of Municipal Power Systems at $58 a megawatt hour. Post-COVID, that number soared to $89 a megawatt hour, and all of the potential off-takers headed quickly for the exit ramp. So the fortunes of these new industries, fusion and fission, will be based both on what they can achieve as well as the development in the markets around them. Natural gas prices, storage technologies, loan guarantees and subsidies, the evolving conversation around carbon, these are all elements of the soup that will eventually determine whether these industries survive and thrive or are relegated to a small niche in the power game of tomorrow. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.